because you will spend a lot of your time underneath side control. So understanding how to escape side control, really key. Make certain you focus on this a lot. It will serve you well the entirety of the time you're in jiu-jitsu. So the basics, we want to talk about frames. There are lots of different ways of doing it. Shall I do it from this way around? So as we were just discussing in the simplified drill earlier, you generally have one arm is going to go into their neck, locking it here by the shoulder. Generally just grab material if you want. An arm is here. So you don't want to be pushing. That doesn't really help you, and it's also kind of mean. You're just using a frame. So you want to have something that can deal with their weight pressing into you and support it comfortably. So your arm position is going to be very important. I would generally say you want a fairly right angle sometimes. So my arm's kind of like this, as opposed to this. I can't remember the maths terms. More acute angle, I guess. That makes it more weak, and this more oblique angle, acute angle. Maths is not my strong point. This makes it a bit stronger. And also with this one, I can actually push them away from me, pushing me down. And getting them towards my legs is pretty beneficial. So there's different escapes you can do depending on whether you're pushing them away from you to an extent like this. And again, you're not pushing, you're just, your arms are rigid. Or you've got it more like this. And it's going to depend on their weight distribution as well. And also, importantly, where they are on your hips. So if they're down here, that's a very different escape to if they're way up here, closer to your head. So weight distribution matters a lot. But for the basics, because as I said, I love teaching this and I love side control escape, so I can go to a lot of depth, a lot of dense, that probably actually makes sense, Freudian slip, a lot of depth. The basic option is simply grabbing here, arm is here, and we're assuming they're probably roughly chest to chest. So if you're thinking where to put your dummy, put it there if you're doing a simple basic escape. Arm is here. Also with this arm, I need to be careful that I don't leave it loose and floppy. If it's loose and floppy, they're going to be able to push it down and Americana me. I don't want that to happen. So my elbow is in tight, so I don't give them the space to do that. This other arm, that's going to be on their hip. So there's a lot of different options you can do with this arm and the other arm as well. And it's mainly going to depend on if you're able to block the crossface in time or not. I tend to teach this with the assumption the person is going to get a crossface. That's kind of inevitable. But you don't want to get in the habit of giving up the crossface easily. It's important to try and block that. So this hand, if you get it in time, you can even block it inside here. So they can't even get the crossface. So this is more like a half guard kind of position with the arms, that is. But it could work in side control as well. Another thing, as we're talking about with that head to shoulder, you can tuck that in like that. If you do this motion, that makes it harder for them to get their arm underneath. So you want to make it as hard as possible for them to get that crossface. All that being said, I'm going to assume they probably manage it. So in that situation, I want to block here because I don't want them to get to north-south, which is when they start moving around towards my head. That's my favorite thing to do if I'm on top, and it gives a lot of submission opportunity, so you want to avoid that. Arm here means if they try and move around, I will follow them, so they can't get that north-south position. It's important that you're blocking with your forearm, not your hand. Your hand, they can crush that, okay? Particularly if you're gripping here, because that's at your wrist, and your wrist is designed to bend, so it's not going to prevent them. So you want this, forearm. That's not designed to bend. So unless you're against the Hulk, then they can snap your forearms in half, in which case you've got much bigger problems. You go to here. And yeah, as a note, if anyone happens to be the Hulk and hasn't told me, please don't snap anyone's forearm. That'd be bad. Then the legs. So I've got my frames in place here. One leg, I want this knee in tight here. So it's as if I'm trying to bring my forearm towards my knee. Okay, which I can actually do with this dummy because it squishes, but normal humans don't squish like that unless they've got no internal organs. So this elbow-knee connection, that's another really key defensive concept. You do a lot of things. Because if I can do this, they can't get side control in the first place. We're assuming as they've got side control, what I'm going to do instead is hold them in a vice here so that whenever they move, I can follow them. And the big thing that this knee does, it stops them having access to my hip here. They can't move in because they want to get past here, particularly when I'm trying to prevent side control. So let's say they haven't quite got side control yet. If I can get my knee in the way, that's going to stop them achieving the guard pass. It's also why when you're on top, I make a big point of putting this knee in here, because they want to sneak their leg past so they can recover the guard. If you shoved your knee into this hip, you've blocked that off. So this is part of the control point theory that we talk about on top. So on the bottom, reverse engineer that. You think, okay, I want to make certain I can get this knee in. That's really important. However, that's more related to guards. In this situation, they've already got past that knee. So I'm just using this here. Okay, so this foot is on the ground on its own. And this is going to be for my bridging. So this is why it's useful and important to do those bridging drills with the leg in the air. You can bridge with both legs. The problem is, if I drop this knee, they're just going to go to mount. I don't want that to happen. So this knee prevents them going to mount. I need to keep that up there to get some control. So push off this leg and I'm bridging into them so it's at an angle like that. I'm then going to move into the space that I've created. So I bridge up, and then my hips come away. As I do that, you see my leg has dropped down, so I can then bring it underneath and I can go to my guard recovery. So I'm not going into too many details on the guard recovery bit when we did the basic drill. So this would be pretty spectacular if you managed to get straight from here into butterfly guard. I'm sorry to say that's not going to happen in sparring. It can happen with the dummies, but in sparring you would be amazingly lucky to do that. What's more likely to happen is when I've done this, I've bridged up and I've got my knee under, I just get my leg under a bit. Okay, so my leg is in kind of this position. I've just got to kind of like here. And I want to get this leg out so I can get to either close guard or move out so I can get to some kind of butterfly guard or open guard. So once I've got to here, I've bridged up, I've got my leg underneath. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to control the arm on this side. So this knee, as you can see there, my knee is through, but my leg isn't yet. If I leave this arm free, they're going to use this hand to push this knee down and return back to their side control position. So I want to control this arm. The way I'm going to do that is this arm is going to come behind, control here above their elbow, then my hand's going to reach across, grab my shoulder, tight. So they can't push my knee down now because I'm controlling their arm. Okay, I'll just show that again. I'm here. I don't want them to have access to this arm. Underneath, above the elbow, reach across, grab my own shoulder, tight, control their arm. Now, I can use this other leg to shrimp, and as I shrimp, I get more space with this leg. That means I can bring it out, back to close guard. For those of you with longer legs, so it might be that you shrimp, you can't get your leg out, you just keep shrimping until you can get your legs out and recover the close guard. Okay, so I'll just show that without dumbing quickly so you can see the motion. So I'm here, like this, I bridge into them, I shrimp away, control their arm, grabbing it here, shrimp, close guard. Okay, does that all make sense so far, guys? All good? I'll show it one more time. Try a different angle. Well, possibly a different angle. So I'm here. Frame 1 is here. Frame 2 by the hip. My knee is up, pressing in. This foot for bridging. Bridge into them, shrimp away, knee underneath. Once the knee is underneath, this arm, control, grab my shoulder. I'm then going to shrimp, close guard.